Well, hi everyone, and welcome to another edition of Adam's Music Box, where today I want to talk about one of the saddest days in all of music history. Of course, in the late 50s, there was the day the music died when Buddy Holly, Ritchie Valens, and the Big Bopper all succumbed to death after their plane crashed. And then there was this day in 2009, the day that the King of Pop died. And it still feels somewhat surreal. I remember exactly where I was. I got a text message from a friend telling me the news, and I didn't believe it. I thought that it was some sort of, sort of weird joke or something. I just didn't believe it. And they said, no, no, it's true. It's true. And sure enough, it was the top story on every media outlet throughout the world, that Michael Jackson had died at the age of 50. And it's a death that I think still very much affects music fans throughout the world because Michael Jackson was unique in so many ways. So let's start from the visceral and unconscious uniqueness of Michael Jackson. Many people of a certain age and of several generations sort of grew up alongside Michael Jackson. When he was on stage as a young kid, they were young kids watching them as he was experiencing his teens and the success he had at that point in his life. They were in their teens, listening to his increasingly mature and sophisticated sound when he was a young adult, conquering the world with albums like Thriller and Bad. People were going into their adulthood and trying to carve out their place in the world as he entered his 40s and continued to churn out music and live performances that got ever more elaborate and ever more choreographed. People were right there alongside him. He was not only the soundtrack to so many people's lives, but he was someone that accompanied people through many people's lives because they literally grew up with Michael, because he started on stage as a professional musician at such a young age. And then, of course, there's something that I've talked about before, which is the cinematic quality of Michael's music. It tells a story, it has a plot, not just the lyrics, but the instrumental qualities too. The composition of the music itself has this beginning, middle, and end dramatic property that one allows it to stick in your mind longer than music that isn't so programmatic, if you will. And two, you remember the stories, the essence, the ethos, the morals of the story that Michael Jackson is telling you through his music. And then there's the fact that he was just a supremely talented singer, dancer, and writer. And then there are, of course, the intangibles, the fact that he, all his life, even though he had artistic success at all times, he had many other things to contend with. An abusive childhood because of things that his father did, the natural sibling rivalry that occurs when one of the younger members of the family ends up being the most successful. There was, of course, the horrific incident with the fire when he was filming the Pepsi commercial. There was the media. Who were terrible to him, even though without Michael Jackson, they wouldn't have sold the magazines or the TV shows or had the radio scandal programs that they had. So he gave them everything and they treated him really badly. There were exceptions. He did have friends in the media, but few and far between. He was the friends of kings and prime ministers. I mean, Donald Trump, interestingly, defended him when a lot of the other people within that media spotlight weren't. Macaulay Culkin defended him. He did have his strong defenders. And now the world knows that he was always a decent man, an innocent man, a peace-loving man, a man who not only succeeded in, but wanted to do even more to bring people throughout the world together with his music. He was a deeply philosophical and spiritual man. He never preached it per se. He let the music do the talking for him, but he absolutely knew the difference between good and evil and tried to find the good and accentuate the good in the people around him. And many of the good people around today who have enemies have the same enemies he did, because there are certain people motivated by greed and a lust for power that want to destroy someone who was good. When Michael died at the age of 50, everyone knew there was something that wasn't right. And today, many of those suspicions have been confirmed. The details can be found elsewhere. If you're a fan, you probably already know. But the saddest takeaway of all, pardon me, is that he was so young and had so much more music to give, so much more art to create, and so much more life to live. But it happened, and it was sort of that second day the music died. There will never be another pop star as big as Michael. That era has changed. The music industry, in terms of music distribution, in terms of stylistical segmentations, it's too atomized. And so the idea that one singular pop star will ever be able to achieve what Michael achieved, it's difficult to believe. I don't think it will happen again. And while there are a lot of talented young people doing great things today, a talent as towering as Michael, I personally don't see it. So rest in peace, Michael. It was a day that I think a lot of people watching this will remember where they were when they heard the news, that I think a lot of people probably didn't believe at first that Michael Jackson was dead. I still kind of find it hard to believe. Rest in peace and keep listening to the music. Take care.